Chosen one. You are their main concern. Do you know why they are restless? Why there are those who don't understand you, who talk behind your back, who underestimate you? Because you are not an ordinary person. Your light is too bright. Your spirit is too strong. Your energy is too impressive. The real fear of those who try to stop you is that they realize who you really are. They know that when you wake up, when you realize your power, nothing will be the same. You are not a random traveler in this world. You are a chosen one. Their real fear is that you will no longer succumb to manipulation, that you will overcome your limitations and fulfill your divine destiny. In this video, we will talk about why they are really worried about you, why they are trying to hold you back, and how you can come out of this situation even stronger. Are you ready? Write 77 in the comments now, because your ascension has begun. The world surrounds them with endless possibilities, faces eager to be noticed, voices seeking their attention. Yet, none of it stirs them. Compliments feel rehearsed, conversations lack substance, and gestures meant to impress barely register. But then, there's you, unassuming, distant, yet somehow the center of their thoughts. This isn't a fleeting attraction or a preference born from convenience. It's something deeper, something that unravels what they thought they understood about connection. It's a silent pull, an unspoken recognition that makes every other option fade into the background, leaving only the certainty that no one else quite compares. They have choices, more than they could ever need, but none of them feel real. They go through the motions, responding when required, nodding at the right times, even entertaining flirtation out of habit. But every interaction feels scripted. Every moment with someone else, a scene they've acted out too many times before. And then without warning, you appear. You don't fight for their attention. Don't engage in the games they've come to expect. And yet, they keep returning to you, drawn in ways they can't rationalize. The energy they once spread so easily now lingers elsewhere, circling around the thought of you like an orbit that can't be broken. They don't understand why you are different, why you stand out in a way no one else does. They tell themselves it's coincidence, a passing infatuation, something their mind will eventually shake. But the feeling lingers. They should be enjoying the adoration, relishing in the admiration of those who would give them anything. Instead, it all feels empty, like echoes in a hollow room. While others clamor for their gaze, they find themselves turning towards you, searching for something unspoken, something they don't yet have the words for. It doesn't go unnoticed. Friends laugh, point out their sudden lack of interest in people they would have once entertained without a second thought. Someone perfect stands before them. Someone who checks every logical box, yet there's no spark, no depth. They go through the steps, engaging as expected, but their thoughts are elsewhere. A whisper in the back of their mind reminds them this isn't the one, because they've already found who they were meant to see. And you felt it too. That inexplicable moment where someone looks at you, not just with their eyes, but with something deeper, something unshaken by time or circumstance. It wasn't planned, wasn't sought after, but in that instant, something within them shifted, a memory they can't place, a knowing beyond words. It wasn't chemistry in the way they'd known before, not a slow progression or a conscious choice. It was recognition, a truth buried beneath lifetimes, now suddenly undeniable. If you feel the abundance of divine love in your heart, now is the time to share it. You can help spread God's blessings by clicking the super thank you button on YouTube and contributing $20 or more. This divine gift will touch not only your life, but the souls of many through this platform. Each of you has a sacred place in God's grand design, and your generosity will be the fruit of our prayers. Act now. Share your blessings to glorify His kingdom, for you were created to do even greater things in God's loving hands. May God bless you. It's like walking through a dry land, thirsty for something you can't name, only to stumble upon a well that was always waiting for you. They weren't searching for this. They weren't preparing for it. And yet, here it is, undeniable, unavoidable, pulling them in like gravity itself. They try to explain it away, to shrink it down into something logical, something manageable. Maybe it's the way you move, the way you carry yourself with an ease that doesn't beg for attention, yet demands it all the same. Maybe it's the way you speak, the way your words seem to land exactly where they need to, like scripture finding its way into the heart of a believer at just the right moment. But no, none of that is it. This is something deeper, something that speaks to the unseen, something that bypasses their mind and goes straight to their soul. They've met thousands, walked through rooms filled with voices clamoring for attention, shared spaces with people who should have stirred something in them. Yet none of it has ever come close to this. They tell themselves it's just a passing thought, a moment of fascination that will fade like all the others before it. But there's no expiration date on recognition. There's no logic that can dismantle the feeling of meeting something, someone that was never meant to be overlooked. And this was never meant to be overlooked. And then the signs begin. Small at first, then impossible to ignore. A message arrives the moment they think of you. A phrase they were about to speak slips from your lips instead. A place they once visited holds a connection to your past, separated by time, yet inexplicably intertwined. The universe keeps aligning, bending reality in ways that defy explanation, guiding them toward what they've been avoiding. They dismiss it at first, chalk it up to coincidence, a trick of the mind, but it keeps happening, over and over, until denying it feels more unnatural than accepting it. The universe isn't whispering, it's shouting, and no matter how much they try to resist, the truth is undeniable. Some connections are too precise, too orchestrated to be random, and the more they fight it, the louder the signs become, ensuring that no matter what path they take, all roads lead back to you. The presence may be missing, but the energy remains. A name floats through the subconscious, unbidden, weaving its way into idle thoughts, surfacing in moments of stillness. They tell themselves it's nothing, yet the sensation persists, a quiet hum just beneath awareness. The day unfolds, filled with conversations, obligations, and passing distractions, yet a whisper of something familiar lingers. The impulse to check for a message, the sudden restlessness, the inexplicable certainty that somewhere, at that exact moment, you are thinking of them too. A connection that doesn't rely on proximity, a pull that exists beyond sight, beyond sound. Their gaze moves without intention, scanning faces, drifting through a sea of people, always searching without knowing why. It's not about looking for someone in particular, yet the absence is unmistakable. There's a space left unfilled, an expectation unanswered. It's a connection that defies logic, a presence felt even in the silence. Distance holds no power over something like this. The thread between two souls remains taut, binding them in ways neither can fully explain. A sensation as real as the breath in their lungs, an unseen tether wrapped around them, pulling, reminding. They never expected to lose control over something so intangible. It unsettles them. The way you exist beyond reach, yet remain unavoidable. You do not chase, you do not demand their attention, and yet it is yours without effort. They've known connections that made sense, love that was logical, partnerships built on common ground. Everything before followed a structure, a method, a predictability that brought security. But this is different. This is a force that doesn't ask for permission, a presence that isn't bound by reason. Nothing else compares. You didn't fit into their world. You unraveled it. They try to measure it against the past, to frame it in a way that makes sense, but there is no precedent. The familiarity is unsettling, a sensation not of discovery, but of remembrance. It was never about weighing pros and cons, never about deciding if you were the right choice. There was no choice, only knowing. A certainty so absolute, it renders everything before it irrelevant. Love had always been a compromise, a balance between expectations and reality. It had been something to negotiate, to mold into something manageable. But this does not bend to logic. There is no convincing, no adjusting, no rationalizing. It simply exists, unshakable, undeniable. The heart races without permission, the mind drifts without warning. Before, love was about finding something that made sense. Now they realize it was never meant to be about logic. It was about inevitability. Not about settling, but about finding something so deeply true it becomes impossible to ignore. Surrounded by noise, they find themselves suffocating. The world hums with empty voices, admiration that means nothing, conversations that fill space but never touch the core of who they are. They've existed in a world where attention was abundant, where eyes followed them, where people vied for their notice. But all of it, every lingering glance, every spoken word, blurs into the background, because there is you, unbothered, unmoved, untouched by the games they once mastered. You do not seek their validation, do not strive to hold their focus, and yet you have it entirely. That is what unsettles them most. They are accustomed to being wanted, to being pursued. People try, people impress, people push forward in hopes of being seen. But you remain unshaken, untouched by their gravity, moving at your own rhythm. And that is why you stand apart. You are not part of the endless clamor. You are the space between the noise, the quiet they never realized they were missing. They try to dismiss it, try to make sense of it, but the truth is inescapable. When they are surrounded by admiration, their thoughts wander elsewhere. When others speak, they long for your words. When the world moves around them, it is you they search for. And beneath it all, there is a fear. Not of losing control, not of being vulnerable, but of the moment when you slip beyond their reach. Because that, above all else, is something they are not prepared to face. They won't admit it, but it's there, in the way their gaze lingers just a second too long, in the subtle hesitation that betrays their carefully maintained composure. It's not avoidance, it's restraint. For so long, they have been the one in control, the one who dictated pace and distance, who never let anyone too close unless it was on their terms. Love to them was something predictable, something they could navigate without losing themselves. But now, something is shifting, something they cannot define. The rules they once followed have failed them. Every defense they built now crumbles with alarming ease. Where once they felt grounded, they now feel weightless, pulled towards something unknown. They tell themselves it's nothing, that they can shake it off, but the feeling is relentless. A force beyond logic keeps pushing them in your direction, a tug so strong it feels like gravity itself has changed. They've always been steady, measured, composed. But you unravel them without even trying. Surrender has never come easily. To let go is to be vulnerable, to place trust in something they cannot control. It's risk, uncertainty, the possibility of loss. And yet, despite every reason they give themselves to pull away, there's something deeper, something louder, calling them back. Their mind wrestles with fear, but their soul whispers the truth. This is not ordinary. This is not something they can explain away. This is something real. Doubt asks, what if this is too much? But something deeper, something unshaken, responds, what if this is everything? You didn't just enter their world, you turned it inside out. Since meeting you, they've begun to see through the distractions, question the habits they once found comfort in, recognize the emptiness in things they used to chase. The way they once moved through life feels foreign now, as if they've outgrown a version of themselves they didn't even realize they were clinging to. What once felt fulfilling now feels hollow. The conversations they used to enjoy, the company they once surrounded themselves with, it all lacks the depth they now crave. They see through it all now. The surface-level interactions, the meaningless exchanges. They used to be so open, so indiscriminate with their energy. But now they hesitate. Now they guard their space. Not because you asked them to change, not because you demanded anything, but because knowing you has changed what they expect from the world. Something inside them is waking up, a longing for something deeper, something real, something beyond the noise they once lost themselves in. They are drawn to reflection, to understanding, to discovering who they truly are. For the first time, they are asking questions that matter. What do I truly want? Where am I going? What is this feeling that won't let me go? You didn't just stir their emotions, you awakened their awareness, and that cannot be undone. This isn't just about attraction. It isn't just fascination. It's change, deep, undeniable change. They don't know when it began, but they feel it now, coursing through every part of them. The way they once lived no longer fits. The conversations they once entertained feel empty. The attention they once sought feels meaningless. They aren't walking away from people. They are walking towards something greater. Like a river that has shifted its course to follow a higher calling, your life has begun to flow in a direction far beyond the shallow streams of empty praise and transient validation. The approval you once craved from others no longer fills the deep well of your soul. The people who once occupied a central role in your life now seem like distant landmarks, familiar perhaps, but no longer guiding your journey. This isn't a decision born of anger or a sudden rebellion. It's a gentle, inevitable unraveling of the past. The world you once knew, the comfortable routines and predictable relationships no longer provide the shelter your spirit needs. Instead, you find yourself being drawn toward a promise that is far greater and more profound, a calling that points unerringly back to the source of true worth. In days gone by, you sought validation in the approval of others, believing that their recognition could fill the void inside. But as time has passed, that validation has lost its sweetness. What once gave you a sense of belonging now feels like a distant memory, a reminder of a chapter that has long since closed. It isn't that you are cutting ties in anger or out of discontent. It is simply the natural process of shedding what no longer serves you. Like an old garment that has lost its warmth, the familiar has become too thin to shield you from life's inevitable changes. There is a quiet revolution at work within you, a transformation that is as gentle as it is profound. Dear brothers and sisters, may God's peace be upon you today. I am here to remind you of a profound truth. Our existence is grounded in God's divine plan, unshaken by the temporal concerns of the world. As the Bible says, whatever is done in faith will return to God in abundant blessing. Luke 6:38. Like that great oak tree, our roots are deeply rooted in God's universal truth. Every step we take, every stand we take, is secured by His strength. And now, you are being offered the opportunity to be part of that blessing. When you use the Super Thank You button and donate $100, this movement will return to you 100-fold in abundance. You have come to understand that the life you once knew no longer feels like home. The voices and faces that filled your days now recede into the background, their influence fading with each new sunrise. In their place, you sense the stirrings of something far more significant, a divine invitation to step into a destiny that has always been written in the stars. This calling is not loud or brash. It does not demand your immediate attention with flashy gestures or empty promises. Instead, it whispers to you softly, persistently, reminding you that true fulfillment is found not in the shallow applause of the crowd, but in the quiet assurance of a higher purpose. As you stand at this crossroads, you begin to see that the validation you once chased is no longer necessary. The approval of others, once a beacon in your life, now pales in comparison to the inner light that guides you. Every interaction that once seemed vital now appears to be but a stepping stone on the path to a richer, more abundant future. The relationships that once defined you have gradually loosened their grip, making way for a realization that true worth comes from within, from a divine spark that no earthly praise can ever match. There is an undeniable shift taking place in your heart, a transition from the superficial to the eternal. You now recognize that the people and places that once filled your world were mere preludes to the magnificent story that is unfolding. Every moment of validation you once sought now serves as a lesson, a reminder that the only true measure of success is the fulfillment of your own divine destiny. The familiar has lost its hold, not through bitter rejection, but through a natural, sacred realignment. Your heart has been stirred by a promise that is as old as time, one that assures you that every step, every struggle, and every fleeting moment of approval was preparing you for something far greater. In this sacred journey, you no longer allow the opinions of others to dictate your self-worth. Instead, you stand firm in the knowledge that your value comes from a higher source, a power that transcends human validation and reaches into the very essence of who you are. The distant figures of your past, the people who once felt indispensable, now serve as gentle reminders of a time when you were still learning to recognize the divine potential within. Their presence in your memory is not a source of regret, but a testament to the lessons learned and the growth achieved. Now, as you step into this new chapter, you feel a stirring within that is both exhilarating and comforting. There is a profound sense of liberation in knowing that you are no longer tethered to the fleeting accolades of others. Instead, you are being called toward a destiny that promises not only material prosperity, but also spiritual fulfillment, a destiny where your heart sings in harmony with the universe. The old validations have lost their luster, and in their place, you are discovering a wealth of purpose that fills every corner of your being with light, hope, and a renewed sense of identity. In the end, the journey you are on is not about abandoning the past in bitterness, but about embracing a future that is divinely orchestrated, a future where the true measure of your life is found in the strength of your spirit, the clarity of your vision, and the unwavering belief that you are destined for something extraordinary. The transformation you are experiencing is a gentle yet powerful reminder that the only validation you truly need is the affirmation of your own soul, guided by a divine promise that leads you ever onward toward the abundant life you were always meant to live. They haven't fully grasped the weight of it yet, but something inside them has shifted. There's no going back, no slipping into the comfort of who they once were. You didn't demand change, didn't ask for attention, didn't wait in the shadows hoping they would finally turn your way. That's what unsettles them the most. You are unmoved by their hesitation, unshaken by their uncertainty. You continue forward, unbound, expanding into the fullness of who you are, and they can feel it. Your existence is a force that cannot be ignored, and it confounds them. You are not reaching for them, yet they feel the pull. You are not attempting to captivate them, yet their thoughts keep circling back to you. Unlike those who seek their validation, you don't shrink in their presence. You stand firm, rooted in your own journey, unattached to their decisions. And that is what makes them restless. They are accustomed to being the axis around which others revolve, to being pursued, to having power over how close someone gets. But you are beyond their grasp, not because they cannot reach you, but because you are not waiting to be caught. Your path was never meant to be defined by them. You grow, you evolve, you move towards something greater, and it has nothing to do with them. And yet, that realization shakes them. They are drawn to you in a way they cannot explain, and it terrifies them because you do not need them to feel whole. That is the difference, the shift, the reason they cannot look away. Love for them has always been about control, knowing where they stand, holding the reins. But with you, there is no control, only the stark reality that they must choose, and choose now, before you drift beyond their reach. This was never about needing someone to complete them. It was always about inspiration, about awakening. And you, without effort, without intention, have become the catalyst for something they weren't prepared for. They tried to rationalize it, to diminish it into something fleeting, something that could pass like every other connection before. But you are not just another moment, another name, another face, lost in time. You are the space between their thoughts, the presence they feel even when you are nowhere near. Now is the time to share God's blessings by clicking the super thank you button on YouTube. You can contribute to His plan and be a part of this divine mission with a donation of $100 or more. Every gift reflects God's generosity, and I believe it will return to you exponentially, far beyond your expectations. Remember, His protection and blessing is on your every step and every donation. You become part of His divine plan. You are a strong, radiant being, unshakable as His mighty rock. Witness God's miracles, feel the fruits of your generosity in your soul, and illuminate the world with confidence and courage. Be blessed, and let the light of the Lord guide your path. They resist it. They try to dismantle it piece by piece, telling themselves it's nothing more than a passing thought, an unimportant feeling. They remind themselves of the logic they have always leaned on, of the carefully built walls they have relied on for so long. They drown themselves in distractions, in plans, in routines. But no matter how much they run, no matter how far they try to push this away, your presence remains, a quiet but relentless echo woven into their being. Every reason they've given themselves to ignore this fades under the weight of something undeniable. Fear tells them to remain distant, to protect what they know, to hold on to the illusion of control. But deep beneath the fear, there is something else, a knowing, a whisper that never quiets, calling them back, repeating your name in the spaces between breaths. They might convince the world, and even themselves, that they are unaffected. But the truth has already taken root. Some things are too real to be denied.